Hey, Luxe Cubicle. My name is Christian Osmo, and this audit is going to walk you through, some weaknesses and strengths of that your website may have in terms of design and optimization. Just for a bit of background, I've been a web designer for about a decade. I currently call London home, but I grew up in kind of the tech world, the West Coast of the United States. Um, I specialize in something called conversion rate optimization, which means that I build websites that sell better, they get more subscribers, gather more leads, they convert better in general. I'm not going to comment on how good or bad I think your design is because those are subjective. I don't really have any business in that, other than it being organized, neat, and that sort of thing. But I will use my data-driven knowledge to tell you what sells and what doesn't. And that's obviously why we're all here. That's the most important thing. So this audit is actually going to be pretty brief because your website looks pretty close to what I would expect an e-commerce website to look like. This is really good. And I don't know if you've seen the video that I posted right before this one, but I go and I talk about how what you need, let me just take a screenshot here. What you really need in a website is to tell people exactly who you are, exactly why they need to be with you, and you do that right here. Showcase, you are providing the community with the checkpoint. That's who you are and what you do. And this is, let me erase those. This is what you do right here. And this, showcase your adventures, is why they should care. And so this is really good. And then you have a very clear call to action. Very clear call to action right here. That's fantastic. And I'm actually really impressed. There aren't a whole lot of people that I do this for that I actually see that are what I expect to see. I also love that you don't put all your pages up there. You only put the important ones. Homes, product, contact us. And that's exactly what you should be doing. So I'm very impressed in terms of that. Yeah, that's really good. Continue down here. This is good. If I can make one suggestion about the homepage, people love seeing there are other people who are reading or who are buying your products, or that they change lives. If I could make one suggestion about your homepage, put something right here that talks about your customers. Right below this fold. This should say something about how George blah 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 loved this shirt and it helped him express who he is, or this should be him quoting him. If you have something from a customer, that's great. Put that right there. Also, if you have you're featured in some magazine, this is also a great place to put it. This looks great. This looks awesome. Pictures are beautiful. You've got your mission right there. That sounds good. And then what I love about this is that you've got the rest of everything right here. This is great. Again, this is one of the better websites in terms of design that I've seen to optimize for conversion. Now, then we get into the more important bits here. I haven't looked at who your host is or anything like that, but I noticed some problems right away when I got here. This tests for your load speed. I don't know exactly where you're located or where your customers are, but I went ahead and tested your speed in San Jose, New York. That should give me a pretty good estimate of the speed across the United States. And if you look here, this is your most important number. 3.14 seconds in San Jose or San Francisco area, and of course 3.28 seconds in New York, and that's very important. And there are several reasons for that, but let me get into why it's important, or what you should be aiming for. Google's threshold for this number right here, this 3.28 seconds that you have, is 2 seconds. If you're going above 2 seconds, Google is not going to put you on the first page search results for anything, absolutely nothing. And so that is their stated threshold. You really need to be below that. I shoot in my clients' websites, I shoot for 1 second. All of my sites end up below 2 seconds. And so the fact that you're not getting below 2 seconds is a big problem. Even the traffic, so because of that, you're definitely losing traffic that you could be getting from search engines like Google and Bing. If you are getting traffic from other sources, and you might be getting some traffic from Google, just not as much as you could be, But if you're getting traffic from other sources, as soon as you hit 3 seconds, you've got 40% of the people are hitting the back button before your page is even loaded. So that's another really big problem. Not just because of Google, but also because people don't like it when it takes that long. It shouldn't take that long, and there are a few things that you can do to change it. One thing has to do with this number right here, 4.8 megabytes. This is the size of all the files that are loading on your homepage, and this is a lot, 4.8. I shoot for 1 megabyte. It obviously depends on how image heavy the website is. But 1 megabyte is a good number to go by. And you can do that by optimizing images, by minifying your code, and I'll go into that in a second here. So I happen to know, because I looked earlier, that you are using Shopify as a host and as your content management system. Shopify is okay for when you first get started, but the big problem with it is that it's not very scalable. And the hosting isn't that good. So you're using Shopify. Shopify hosts their own websites, obviously, but their servers are not that fast. And the problem with that is, like I mentioned before, Google is going to be penalizing you for having a slower website, and your potential customers, are not going to wait around for your website to load. So those are the immediate problems. Shopify also generally has a pretty poor code structure, and so Google will also penalize you for that. So Shopify is good for just getting started because it's easy and it's cheap because you don't have to hire a web designer. But it is not an ideal solution for the long term. It's not good for scalability, and it's not good for generally just a big business. So eventually, you're going to want to switch to something a little bit more robust, like WordPress. I use WordPress for everything. That's why I suggest it. So if you do end up going with WordPress, I host all of my client sites. If you do become a client of mine, I will end up hosting your site. But if you don't want to do that, but you still want to go with WordPress, this is a host. It's really kick-ass host. They do really good work. It's very fast. It's expensive. It's $29 a month, which I think is probably similar to Shopify. I'm not sure exactly, though, because I don't use Shopify for the reasons I detailed earlier. So that's a suggestion. Now, that's obviously you have to switch content management systems, which is kind of a hassle in and of itself. So it would be difficult for me to say definitely do that. It's an investment for sure. Okay, and now to the next section of this. I've already gone through kind of a little bit of the technical bit, and I think that your design is pretty good. I've made some suggestions, so we're just going to go into the SEO section here. This is just a little analysis, and I can explain it better to you. Some things that they check for are more or less important than other things, so don't be too alarmed if you get a bad grade. Not necessarily. Excuse me. Okay. So you get on here. Meta description tag is something that you definitely want to have on your website. It is basically just it's a tag for like Google and other search engines to know kind of what your website's all about. I don't know what kind of tools that Shopify gives you to make that, but because again I don't use Shopify because it's just not an ideal content management system or host, and it's more about the host than the content management system. But the CMS itself is not that great. Keyword consistency. This is something that Google's looking for if you need to search for certain websites. Let me just take a screenshot so you know which one I'm talking about and when. So I'm talking about this one right here, keyword consistency. If Google knows that you are, if you want to be known by Google for a certain keyword, like, excuse me, then you need to have that keyword all throughout your website. So keyword consistency is something that Google's going to be searching for. If it's inconsistent with keywords, Google doesn't really know what you do, and that's obviously a problem. Amount of content. This is going to be. It's for search engines. It's always better to have more content. I mean, not always. There should be. There's a middle ground. But you should definitely be working on creating more content, telling Google and other search engines, what you do and what you're about. A short little description really isn't enough. It sees a website with more content is having more authority, basically. Your image alt attributes, I wouldn't say that this is such a big problem because you only have a few images. But the images should have alt attributes, which is the alt attributes are basically just words that go in place of the image in case they don't show up, or if like a blind person happens to be on your website. Okay, I'll continue here. Links, it looks like maybe you're new, I'm not really sure, and so you don't have any backlinks. This is just what happens when another website links to your site. A really great way to get like good high quality backlinks is to get featured in magazines and things like that. So I would, if you can, I would suggest getting some press, getting featured in magazines. That will send you an initial surge of traffic, but Google also likes to see it for the long term, for like when people are searching for your product. Continue. These aren't that important. Robots, text, and sitemap. Great, you've got that, as well as analytics. Your site, again, your design is pretty good. It looks good. People know exactly what they're looking for. You have a clear call to action. Click on the Luxe products. As I mentioned to most people, the reason that this is this format is, let's see. The reason that this like is so important is because people naturally, what they do is they read from left to right and from top to bottom. And so in terms of level of importance, you have Luxe Cubicle, your name, and you have again what you do right here, why the customer should care, and then an obvious action that you want them to take. This is great. And you have that both. The reason that I bring this up again is because you have that both on the desktop and the mobile apps. It looks great. This is not that important. Don't worry about it. This is not too bad, but it could be a lot better. So this has to do with what I was talking about earlier, how you need a faster host. Shopify doesn't allow that, so you do have to switch content management systems if you want to expand better. This is a decent. It could be better, but that's decent. This is like when I first enter your URL, kind of what the first time that I get something back, some information back. And then 1.7 seconds for your content to be loaded. And 12.2 seconds, obviously it's yellow and that means it's a problem. 12.2 seconds is how long it takes all of your scripts to load. I've already gone into that a little bit, so I don't think, if you have any questions about that, let me know. But I don't think I need to continue going into it too much. Now here's your total page size. And this is going to be your biggest stumbling block on, second biggest stumbling block, because the first one's your host. Your largest stumbling block outside of the host is this total page size and the page size breakdown. This is what's going to cause your website to be slow, other than the host, which again is not ideal. But you go here and you have 12.2 megabytes. You can see that it's broken down, pretty much 50% images. This is where you want to optimize your images. Now, I don't know exactly what images you have on your website or what the resolution is, but on a website you should be using 72 ppi rather than 300, which is standard for print, and you should be using something like 1,000 pixel width, because the thing is it doesn't display. Sometimes you put images up there that are made for print or that are really big for some other reason, but you don't actually use that large of an image, but it still has to load it, the website. The screen that the website is on can't actually display it, but you are still downloading it to the device. And so that's a big problem. You should be compressing your images before you get there. I use plugins for that to do it automatically, but since you're using Shopify, you can't, I believe. But there is, what is it called? It's like called compress.io. I used to use this, and I still do if I'm not using WordPress or I'm doing something else. I spelled that wrong. Compress.io. I would suggest reducing the size of your images and then going to, maybe that's not it. Hold on. Compressor.io, sorry, that's what it was. Compressor.io. And so you can take an image like, let me just select a file here. You may as well. Take an image like, here's me and my daughter. And this hasn't gone on any website, so I haven't compressed it before. This will speed up your website, and that's why I'm doing it. There it is. And so basically what's going to happen is before it was, let's take a screenshot of here. Before that image was 1.5 megabytes, and afterwards it was able to reduce it to 680 kilobytes without any significant like image quality loss. And then basically you just take that, I mean, as you might have guessed, you can take that and download it. It did make it upside down, which it doesn't usually do, but that's totally fine. So anyway, that's one way to get your images down. You have to get your these things right here. Let me go back to this screenshot of this. This right here is your JavaScript, and this is going to be with Shopify and whatever template you're using. This is your JavaScript, and this right here is your CSS, which are two different kinds of code. And those codes, those types of codes need to be more efficient. You'll probably see down here, my guess, it does say it's been minified, but my guess is that you, yeah, so if it's already been minified, that means it's already been made more efficient, but if you're using another content management system like WordPress, depending on the theme that you use, it's probably going to be a lot less than that, a lot smaller. As I said before, my average website is actually only about 1 megabyte. I mean, that's what I shoot for, but this says that the JavaScript by itself is over 3 megabytes, so that's a problem, and that's a Shopify problem again. Okay, you continue. This probably isn't that important, but it's something. Inline styles. This might be. It's possible that this is where part of it is going. This is basically just code that's. Let's see. That's strange. This is basically just code that is going into your website that's going to be less efficient. It's possible that that's where some of the inefficiency is going, but I'm guessing that it's more about the fact that you're using Shopify. Yeah, this is all about social media stuff. Obviously, if you don't have social media, you don't have social media. Google does like to see that sort of stuff. So yeah, and that's actually just about it. Oh yeah, you've already got SSL enabled, which is security. That's great. You have to have a store. It's a requirement. So I think that comes with Shopify, so that's something. Let me just recap really quickly here. Yeah, great design. Add in something that's like featured in, if you can get featured in a magazine, that would be great. That would definitely add to your credibility. Add in customer reviews right at the top. I think, in my opinion, that will add a lot to the design. Outside of the design, you really can't do that much better probably without changing content management systems. I would not be using Shopify, mainly because it's not very efficient, and Google doesn't like it very much. It's not scalable. As soon as a lot of people start using your website, it will get much slower, and there's no way that you can change this load time to make it faster because Shopify doesn't offer you that option. Yeah, let me see. Let me just check to make sure that I got everything. Yeah, and that's it. Wasn't that fun? Hopefully you're not too insulted by everything I've said. Nothing's personal. It's just to make you better. If you've got time, check out my website. It's ostmosislab.com. That's OSTMOSIS labs.com. All jokes aside and everything, it's not personal. Some people think that their websites are the best thing in the world, and yours is actually pretty good. But there are definitely some things that you should work on, in my opinion,